Jake's day had been ordinary, the kind of slow afternoon that made the air in his repair shop feel heavy. The smell of machine oil hung in the room, tools were scattered across the metal bench, and his old toolbox sat open beside the workbench. He was tightening the bolts on a damaged plasma coupler when the door to his shop slid open. He expected a customer, maybe one of the grumpy miners from the outer colony. Instead, he saw her. She was unlike anyone he had ever seen: skin, pale, but glowing faintly, marked with thin silver lines that shimmered when she moved. Her hair was long and black, tangled by wind and dust. Her clothes were torn, the fabric looking like it had once been fine, but now hung loose and dirty. She carried a small leather pouch, clutched tightly to her chest, as if it was the most important thing in the universe. She didn't speak, didn't even look around. Her large golden eyes locked on him as she walked across the room. Jake froze, confused. His hand tightened around the wrench without thinking, without a word. She stepped up onto his toolbox, her bare feet making a hollow thud on the metal. She leaned forward, her face close to his. And before he could step back, her lips touched his. The kiss was quick, almost like a brush of wind, but it left his heart racing. She stepped back, still standing on the box, staring at him as if she had just done something important. "What?" Jake began, but he never got to finish. From outside came the sound of shouting, loud, sharp voices speaking in a language he didn't understand. The deep hum of hover engines and the heavy thud of boots echoed closer. His instincts screamed trouble. The girl's eyes widened. She jumped down from the toolbox and grabbed his arm with surprising strength. "You're mine now," she said in broken English. Her voice was soft but firm, like it was a fact, not a request. Jake pulled his arm back. "What the hell does that mean? Who are you?" Before she could answer, the shop door burst open. 3 tall alien enforcers stepped inside, their armor dark and sharp-edged. Glowing symbols etched across their chest plates. Each carried a plasma spear that hummed with deadly energy. The leader's voice was cold, human. "The girl, give her to us." Jake glanced at her, then at them. She was trembling, but still standing close. He noticed a faint red mark on her arm, like a small glowing implant. A tracker, maybe. "What's she done?" Jake asked, trying to buy time. "That is not your concern," the leader snapped. "She belongs to the High Warlord. Hand her over, and you will be spared." Jake's gut told him one thing: you feel to them. She wouldn't live long. He didn't know why, but something about the way she had walked in, kissed him, and claimed him. It all felt deliberate, urgent, before his brain could stop him. Jake stepped between her and the aliens. "Sorry, boys, shop's closed." The leader's eyes narrowed, and he raised his weapon. That was Jake's cue. "Back door," he muttered. To the girl, grabbing her wrist and pulling her toward the rear of the shop, they ran into the supply room, Jake hitting the panel to open the small rear exit. The cold wind from the colony streets hit them, carrying dust and the distant hum of machines. "Where?" Jake asked quickly. "Anywhere but here," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. They darted into the narrow alleys, weaving between crates, garbage bins, and repair droids. Behind them, shouts grew louder, metal boots clanging on the walkways. The girl kept looking over her shoulder, clutching her pouch to her chest like it held her soul. Jake led her to his hover truck, an old dented machine parked in the shadows. He shoved her into the passenger seat, jumped behind the controls, and fired the engine. The vehicle roared to life the moment they lifted off the ground. Plasma bolts cracked against the walls near them. Jake swerved sharply, speeding toward the outer streets. The colony's skyline of rusted towers and flickering neon signs flashed past. His mind was racing. He didn't know her name, didn't know why she had chosen him. But he knew one thing: whoever those armored giants were, they weren't giving up easily. As they sped away, she finally spoke again. "You saved me," she said, her voice a mix of wonder and certainty. Jake kept his eyes on the road. "Don't thank me yet. I don't even know what I just got myself into." She looked at him with those glowing golden eyes and said, "You're mine now, human," as if the words sealed some ancient promise. Jake felt a chill, not from fear, but from the strange truth in her voice. And somewhere in the distance, the hunters were already closing in. The hover truck jolted as Jake swerved sharply around a corner. His hands gripped the controls tight, the old engine whining under the sudden acceleration. The dusty streets of the colony blurred past in streaks of rust and neon. Behind them, the low thrum of alien hover bikes grew louder. Their riders' tall, armored figures moved like predators. Weaving through the narrow lanes with deadly precision, blue plasma bolts sizzled through the air, striking the walls and sending chunks of metal and dust flying. Jake glanced at the alien girl sitting beside him. She had her pouch clutched tightly to her chest, her breathing quick but steady. "You want to tell me why we're being shot at?" he asked, his tone sharp. She shook her head. "No time," she said simply, her accent thick. "If they catch me, you die too." "Comforting," Jake muttered under his breath. He pushed the hover truck harder, the old vehicle rattling. As it sped down a long, dimly lit street lined with abandoned warehouses, the girl suddenly leaned forward, pointing to a side alley. "There." Jake didn't hesitate. He swung the truck sharply into the alley. The narrow passage almost too tight for the vehicle. The hoverbikes followed, their engines howling like hungry beasts. One rider fired a shot that grazed the side of the truck, sending sparks flying. "Hold on," Jake warned. He slammed the controls down, forcing the truck into a sharp drop through a maintenance chute that opened into the underlevel of the colony. The hover truck landed hard, skidding on the metal floor. The dim underlevel was a maze of pipes, steam vents, and dark corners. Shadows shifted around them as small scavenger droids scattered away. Jake knew these underlevels well. Few dared to come here unless they were desperate. He cut the truck's lights and slowed, letting the echoes fade above them. The hum of hoverbikes passed by. The hunters didn't seem to realize they had dropped below. For a moment, there was silence. Only the distant hiss of steam and the low hum of machinery filled the air. Jake let out a slow breath. "Think we lost them?" But the girl shook her head. "No, they won't stop." She pulled back the sleeve of her torn shirt, revealing a faint red glow under her skin. It was the same mark Jake had seen earlier. "Small embedded device, they can track you." Jake realized his voice was flat. She nodded. "Always." Jake ran a hand over his face. "Great. So hiding's not an option." The girl's gaze softened as she looked at him. "You could leave me," she said quietly. "You'd be safe." Jake snorted. "Yeah, and spend the rest of my life wondering what happened to the girl who walked into my shop and kissed me. Not happening?" Her golden eyes widened slightly, as if she didn't expect his answer. Then she looked away, her fingers tightening around the pouch in her hands. "What's in the bag?" Jake asked, curious. She hesitated, then whispered, "The reason they want me." Before he could press her for more, a sharp metallic screech echoed through the underlevel. The sound bounced off the walls, fast, mechanical, and getting closer. Jake's eyes narrowed. Drones. Out of the shadows, two sleek hunter drones appeared. Their bodies shaped like black insects, long-bladed legs scraping the floor as they moved. Red sensors glowed in their heads, locking onto the truck. Jake slammed the controls forward, the hover truck leaping into motion. The drones followed, weaving through the maze with frightening agility. One of them leaped, landing on the roof of the truck with a heavy thud. Metal claws dug in, and its drill-like mandibles began tearing through the roof. The girl acted before Jake could. She reached into her pouch and pulled out a small crystal sphere that pulsed with white light. Without hesitation, she hurled it at the drone's head. The sphere shattered. Releasing a blinding flash that filled the tunnel, the drone screeched. Its sensors fried and tumbled off the truck, crashing into a wall. Jake glanced at her in surprise. Not bad. She didn't smile. More will come. He knew she was right. They couldn't keep running forever. The colony's outer gates weren't far. But once they left the walls, they'd be in the wastelands, dangerous, uncharted, and filled with things far worse than hunter drones. Jake made his decision. We're not going to lose them in the colony, he said. We're going to disappear where they won't dare to follow. The girl tilted her head. Where? He smirked. The iron wastes. Her expression changed instantly. Fear. Then respect. No one comes back from there, she said. Jake's grin was humorless. Exactly. With a roar of the engine, the hover truck sped toward the massive freight tunnels that led beyond the colony's outer walls. The girl held onto the seat as the metal doors grew larger ahead and somewhere behind them. The hum of hoverbikes returned. The chase wasn't over, it was only beginning. The hover truck rattled as it tore through the freight tunnel. Jake kept his focus on the glowing track lines ahead, knowing one wrong turn could slam them into the wall. The alien girl sat beside him, her pouch in her lap, her golden eyes fixed on the dark mouth of the tunnel leading to the iron wastes. The distant hum of hoverbikes still echoed behind them, quieter now, but not gone. The hunters were still coming. Jake finally broke the silence. All right. You're going to tell me what's going on? Why did you walk into my shop, stand on my toolbox, and kiss me like we've known each other for years? She didn't look at him, because it was the only way. The only way to what? Jake pressed. She took a slow breath, her fingers brushing over her lips like she was remembering the moment in My People's Law. A kiss in public is a claim. It means I choose you as mine. Anyone who harms you, harms me. Anyone who takes me, takes you too. Jake frowned. So you're telling me that because you kissed me, I'm now part of some alien marriage contract? Her gaze shifted to him, serious and unblinking. It is more than marriage. It is binding, stronger than blood, stronger than death. The claim is sacred. If they kill me, they must kill you first. Jake's grip on the controls tightened. That explains why those tin cans back there weren't interested in letting me walk away. She nodded. If I had run alone, they would have caught me quickly. But with you, they must take us both alive. It gives me a chance. Jake gave a short laugh without humor. Lucky me. The girl tilted her head slightly, as if she didn't understand his sarcasm. I chose you because you looked at me, she said softly, not like prey, not like property, but like a person. Jake was quiet for a moment. The truth was, hadn't thought much when she walked in. She was just someone in trouble. He'd seen plenty of desperate people before, but something in her eyes had stopped him from looking away. What's in the pouch? He asked again. Her fingers tightened around it. Something stolen, she said finally, from the High Warlord himself. It is worth more than his ships, more than his armies. That is why he sends hunters. That is why he will not stop. Jake's mind worked fast. So, you stole something from the most powerful alien in this sector, then dragged me into it because of some Kislaw ritual thing. Her golden eyes flickered with guilt. Yes. Jake shook his head. And here I thought my day was boring. The tunnel ahead began to widen, and through the cracked roof, pale light spilled in. They were nearing the iron wastes. Jake could already feel the air changing colder, sharper, carrying the scent of dust and metal. Before they could exit, a sharp sound filled the air. Jake recognized it instantly. Harpoon launchers, 3 steel cables shot down from the shadows above, stabbing into the hover truck's frame. The sudden force yanked the vehicle sideways, sparks flying as metal scraped against the tunnel wall. Jake cursed, fighting to keep control from above. Alien hunters. descended on steel lines. Their armor gleaming in the dim light. One landed on the hood. Slamming a plasma blade into the windshield, the girl acted fast. She reached for the pouch and pulled out another small crystal sphere, this one glowing faint blue. She smashed it against the dashboard, releasing a pulse of energy that made the cable snap with a violent pop. Jake seized the chance, slamming the throttle. The hover truck roared forward, bursting out of the tunnel and into the open expanse of the iron wastes. The view was endless rolling fields of jagged, rust-colored rock, torn by deep canyons and scattered with massive wrecks of old ships. Strange metallic structures jutted from the ground like bones. And far in the distance, storms of dust swirled like angry spirits. Jake slowed just enough to let the truck hover over a broken ridge. He turned to her. "All right, I get the clang thing now. But here's the problem: if I'm bound to you, and they want you dead, that means I'm on their list forever." She met his gaze, unflinching. "Yes, human," she said. "And it means I will fight for you as much as you fight for me." Jake studied her face. There was no fear there, only determination. It was strange he'd known her less than an hour, yet somehow it already felt like their fates were tangled beyond. "I'm doing fine," he said at last. "If I'm in this, I'm all in. But you're gonna have to teach me your people's rules, fast." Her lips curved into the smallest hint of a smile. "Then we start now," far behind them. The distant hum of the hunters returned. Louder than before, the claim had been made. And now it was going to be tested. The iron waste stretched out before them like another world. The land was sharp and broken. The ground a mix of rust-colored rock and twisted metal left behind from wars no one remembered. Far in the distance, dust storms rolled across the horizon like giant walls, swallowing everything in their path. The sky was pale and cold. The sun a weak orange glow behind the haze. Jake drove the hover truck carefully now. The terrain here was dangerous. One wrong move, and the truck could drop into a canyon hidden under a thin crust of metal. The alien girl sat quietly, her golden eyes scanning the horizon. She didn't seem afraid of the hunters anymore. Instead, she looked focused, like she knew this place. "You've been here before," Jake guessed. She nodded. "Once, long ago. The iron wastes are death for most. But for those who know the paths, there are places to hide." Jake smirked. "You mean places? Even your warlord's goons won't follow." Sierra's eyes flickered. "Yes, but they will still try." A sudden movement caught Jake's eyes, something crawling along the jagged cliffs to their left. At first, he thought it was another wrecked machine. But then it moved too smoothly. Long, thin legs gripped the rock like hooks. A body covered in hard, shiny plates. Eyes glowing faintly blue. The creature was as big as the hover truck. Sierra tensed. "Scrapstalker," she whispered. "It hunts by sound." Jake slowed, cutting the truck's engine so it drifted silently over the ground. The creature stopped moving, but kept facing their direction. Its antenna twitched, sensing vibrations. For a moment, everything was still. Jake could hear his own heartbeat. Then crack. A small metal piece fell from the truck's side, hitting the ground below. The scrapstalker lunged, its legs stabbed into the ground, pulling its massive body toward them at terrifying speed. "Hold on," Jake shouted. He slammed the engine back to full power. The truck leaped forward. Skimming over the rocky surface, the creature chased after them, its legs stabbed into the earth again and again. Closing the gap, Sierra reached into her pouch, pulling out a crystal shard. This one was longer, with black veins running through it. "Keep it close," she told him, then slammed the shard against the truck's floor. It cracked, releasing a sharp, high-pitched hum that made Jake's teeth ache. The scrapstalker froze mid-step, its legs trembling. Then, with a shriek that made the air vibrate, it turned away, retreating into the cliffs. Jake blew out a breath. I'm guessing that wasn't just luck. Sierra gave a small smile. Scrapstalkers feared the death song of the old world. Jake shook his head. You and your magic rocks. They pushed deeper into the wastes. The landscape became more twisted, towering piles of ancient metal bones. Rusting ship hulls half buried in sand, and broken weapons larger than buildings. As night began to fall, the temperature dropped fast. The orange light faded, replaced by a deep blue glow from strange crystals growing out of the ground. Jake stopped the truck near a wrecked transport ship and began setting up a small camp. The air was cold enough to bite, and the wind howled through the metal skeleton of the ship. Sierra stayed close to him, watching as he lit a heat coil. No fire, she warned. Light carries far here. The hunters might see. Jake nodded, wrapping a thermal blanket around them both. So we just sit here and freeze. She tilted her head. No, we stay warm like this. Without hesitation, she moved closer, sitting right against him under the blanket. Her body radiated heat, her skin warmer than any human's. Jake tried not to think about the fact that she smelled faintly like rain on hot stone. You do this with everyone you claim? He asked casually. Her lips curved into a small smirk. No, only you. He wasn't sure if she was teasing, but he let it go. Instead, he looked out at the horizon. The wind carried strange, sounds-distant howls. The grinding of metal, the faint hum of engines. They're still following, he said. Sierra nodded. They will follow until the end. She touched the pouch at her side. Unless we reach the safe place first. Jake leaned back against the wreck's cold wall. And where is that? Her eyes met his. The grave of Titans. Jake frowned. Sounds inviting. It is a place of the dead where ships of the First War sleep. My people fear it. The warlord's hunters will not enter. Jake thought about it. And you're sure we can make it there before they catch us? Cyril looked out into the darkness. If we move at first light, yes. A cold gust of wind swept over them. Jake pulled the blanket tighter around their shoulders, in the distance. The faint glow of moving lights appeared over bikes, slowly. Combing through the wastes, they're closer than you think, Jake muttered. Sierra's hand brushed his. Then we stay awake tonight, she said, her voice calm, and if they find us, we fight. The wind in the iron wastes never really stopped. It howled softly through the skeletons of ancient ships, carrying the smell of rust and dust. Jake and Sierra sat huddled under the thermal blanket beside the hover truck, their small heat coil, giving just enough warmth to keep the cold from biting into their bones. The sky above was unlike anything Jake had seen before. A sea of stars stretched from horizon to horizon, glittering like scattered shards of glass. Strange green ribbons of light curled slowly across the darkness, bending and shifting as if alive. For a long time, they stayed silent, the hum of distant hoverbikes came and went like a bad dream. Sierra was the first to speak. Her voice was quiet. Do humans tell stories about their stars? Jake glanced at her. Yeah, sometimes. We give them names. We tell old tales about how they came to be. My grandmother used to say each star was a soul. Watching us, Sierra tilted her head slightly. That is, not so different from my people. She touched the pouch in her lap. Except we believe the stars hold the memories of the past, and sometimes they whisper to those who listen. Jake smirked. And do they whisper to you? Her golden eyes flickered with something unreadable. They did once. He leaned forward a little. When? She hesitated, then pulled the pouch closer, opening it for the first time. Inside was a single object, an irregular crystal about the size of Jake's hand. Glowing faintly with a deep amber light, its surface seemed alive. Small flickers moving inside like trapped lightning. This, she said softly, is called the Heart of Orish. It belonged to the High Warlord. It is a memory stone. It holds the voices of my ancestors and the map to the lost rings. Jake stared at it. Sounds valuable. She nodded. To my people, it is everything. Whoever holds it can claim the right to rule. The warlord stole it from my family before I was born. He killed those who stood against him. My mother, my father. Everyone. Jake's expression hardened. So you're not just running for your life. You're taking back what's yours. Her voice trembled, though she tried to hide it. Yes. I was meant to be given to him as a gift, a way to keep me silent. But I escaped before the ceremony. I took the heart and I ran. That is why he hunts me. That is why he will burn whole worlds if needed to find me. Jake looked out into the darkness. And now, because of your claim thing, I'm part of this. She met his gaze. I did not choose you lightly, Jake. I saw you in the market once before. You spoke to a broken droid like it was alive. You fixed it even though no one paid you. I knew then you would not give me away if I came to you. Jake let out a slow breath. Guess you were right. For a moment, neither spoke. The stars above seemed to burn brighter. The wind carried a faint metallic hum. Jake finally asked, "What happens if you win?" "If you get the heart back to your people," Sarah's eyes softened, "then my people will be free. The warlord will fall, and you will be free too. You will not have to carry the claim anymore." Jake raised an eyebrow. "And if I wanted to keep it?" Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Then you would be bound to me for life." Human, even across the stars. Before Jake could respond, a faint red light appeared in the distance. It moved slowly, weaving between the jagged rocks, then another. Light appeared beside it, and another Syrah's hand tightened around the crystal. "Hunters?" she whispered. Jake scanned the area quickly. "How far?" "Close," she said, her voice steady. "They are sweeping the wastes. They will be here before dawn." Jake's jaw tightened. "Then we move now." Syrah shook her head. "If we move now, they will see us. The open ground here offers no cover. They will shoot us out of the sky." Jake cursed under his breath. "So we just sit here and wait." Her eyes glinted in the faint crystal light. "No, we hide. There is a place nearby, a hollow ship buried in the sand. I used it once before. The hunters cannot scan through its walls." Jake glanced toward the faint red lights moving closer. "Lead the way." They packed quickly. Jake killing the heat coil and slinging his toolkit over his back. Syrah tucked the heart of Orash safely away and climbed into the truck as they moved through the narrow, rocky paths. Jake couldn't help but notice the way she kept glancing at him when she thought he wasn't looking. There was trust in her eyes, now dangerous, heavy trust. The red lights in the distance grew brighter. But the buried ship wasn't far. They could make it if luck stayed with them. For the first time, Jake wondered if it was really luck, or if this strange bond between them was already shaping their fate. The buried ship appeared out of the darkness like the skeleton of a fallen beast. Half buried in rust-colored sand, its jagged metal hull rose from the ground at a steep angle. Holes in the plating revealed twisted corridors inside. The ship's surface shimmered faintly from the strange minerals of the iron wastes, making it blend with the land. Jake parked the hover truck in the shadow of a large wing fragment. Killing the engine, Sarah moved quickly, guiding him toward a gap in the hull. Inside, the air was dry and heavy, smelling of ancient metal and dust. The corridors were narrow, their walls covered in alien symbols, half-erased by time. Jake's boots crunched softly against the sand that had drifted in through the cracks. "This place is old," Jake whispered, his voice echoing. Syrah nodded. "First War era. The warlord's scanners cannot read through it. The walls are made of Arash steel." They reached a large chamber deep inside, where broken crates and scattered tools lay untouched for centuries. Jake set down his toolkit and scanned the room. If they can't scan through the walls, they'll come in by force. Syrah's gaze sharpened. Then we make it costly for them. Jake's mechanic mind was already working. He began pulling apart old power cells, stripping wires, and setting up makeshift trap shock lines along the floor, pressure triggers under the sand, and a plasma coil rigged to overload near the entrance. Syrah watched him work, clearly impressed. "You fight like an engineer," she said, not with blade or gun, but with the mind. Jake grinned slightly. "Yeah. Well, I'm not built for sword fights." The faint hum of hoverbikes reached them. It was low at first, then louder, vibrating through the metal walls. Jake tightened the last connection on a trap and nodded. Showtime. They crouched behind a pile of broken crates as the sound grew closer. Then silence. A sudden clang echoed through the ship as something heavy landed outside. The faint hiss of hydraulics followed, and then the grinding sound of metal being cut open. "They're breaching," Jake muttered. The first hunter entered tall, armored, its eyes glowing red through its helmet visor. It stepped forward cautiously, scanning the shadows. Its foot pressed against the sand-covered trigger. A bright arc of electricity burst from the floor, slamming into its armor. The hunter convulsed. Dropping to one knee before it could recover, Syrah darted from cover. Moving like liquid shadow, her blade a curved, silver-edged weapon flashed once. And the hunter fell. Another armored figure entered, firing a burst from a plasma rifle. Jake ducked, grabbing a broken metal rod and swinging it at the old plasma coil beside the door. The coil sparked violently, releasing a blinding flash and a wave of heat that forced the hunter back. The corridor outside filled with more footsteps. 3 more hunters entered together. Moving in tight formation, Syrah pressed her back to Jake's. "Stay close," she said. The fight became chaos. Jake threw a small power cell like a grenade, sparks exploding as it hit the floor. Syrah moved between enemies with inhuman speed, her blade carving arcs of light in the darkness. One hunter got past her, charging at Jake with a raised blade. Jake had no time to dodge. Instinct took over. He grabbed a heavy pipe from the ground and slammed it into the hunter's knee joint. The alien stumbled, and Jake used the moment to smash the pipe against its helmet. The sound was sharp and final. The last hunter hesitated, seeing his comrades down. Then it raised a communicator to its mouth, speaking in a harsh, alien tongue. Syrah didn't wait. She hurled a throwing blade that struck the device, shattering it. The hunter snarled, but instead of fighting, it retreated, its heavy footsteps fading into the corridor. Silence returned, except for Jake's heavy breathing. He looked around. The floor was littered with scorched armor, broken weapons, and the faint smell of burned metal. "Please tell me that was all of them," he said. Syrah shook her head, wiping her blade clean. "No. That was only the first wave." Jake groaned. "Of course it was." Syrah moved closer, her golden eyes burning with determination. "We will not survive another direct assault. We must leave before dawn." Jake nodded, grabbing his toolkit. "Then we move fast." They stepped out of the buried ship into the cold night. The horizon still carried faint red lights, distant, but not gone. The warlord's hunters had failed here, but they would be back, and next time they would come in greater numbers. Syrah glanced at Jake as they climbed into the hover truck. "You fought well, human," she said quietly. Claim was not a mistake. Jake started the engine, giving her a sideways look. "Let's hope you keep thinking that when this is over." The truck lifted into the air, gliding silently into the shadows of the iron wastes. Heading toward the grave of Titans, neither of them said it aloud, but they both knew the final confrontation was coming, and there would be no running after that. The grave of Titans was exactly what its name promised, a vast valley where the skeletons of ancient warships lay half-buried in sand and shadow. Some were so large their broken hulls looked like mountains. Their jagged metal ribs reached toward The sky, like the hands of giants, frozen in their final moments. Jake guided the hover truck carefully between the wrecks. The silence here was heavy, as if the air itself held its breath. Sierra kept her golden eyes forward, her hand resting on the pouch with the heart of Oresh. "This place is sacred to my people," she said quietly. "It holds the memory of those who fought the First War and never returned." Jake glanced at her. "And you think the warlord's hunters won't follow us here?" "They will follow," she admitted, "but they will fear every step." The truck finally stopped in the shadow of a massive battleship. Hull, the metal scorched and bent from battles fought long before Jake's time. The wreck's entrance gaped like the mouth of a sleeping beast. They moved inside, the air colder here. Every sound echoed each step, each breath, even the faint hum of the heart of Oresh in Sierra's pouch seemed louder in the stillness. Jake found a high platform inside the wreck, a good vantage point. He set up a few last trap strip wires connected to plasma charges and a pair of rigged power cells hidden under the sand. Sierra stood beside him, scanning the valley beyond. "They are coming," she said simply, and she was right, in the distance. The faint red lights of hoverbikes and troop carriers glowed through the dust. The hum of their engines slowly grew louder, filling the grave of Titans with the sound of approaching doom. Jake flexed his hands, his pulse steady but strong. "When this is over, Sarah, I need you to do something." She turned to him. "What?" "Live," he said, his voice low. "No matter what happens, take the heart back to your people. End the warlord's reign." Her golden eyes softened. "And you?" Jake smirked faintly. "I'll do what humans do best, be a problem they didn't see coming." The first hunters entered the wreck, moving slowly, their armor gleaming in the faint light. They stepped carefully, weapons raised, scanning every shadow. Jake triggered the first trap. A plasma charge exploded near the entrance, sending two hunters sprawling into the sand. Sierra leaped from the platform, her blade flashing in arcs of silver light, striking before the enemy could recover. Jake moved along the platform, dropping down to flank the remaining hunters. He swung a heavy metal beam into one, knocking it hard into a wall. Then he grabbed the hunter's dropped rifle and fired a burst into the second. More came, 5, 6, maybe more, pouring into the wreck like a tide of steel and fire. The fight became chaos again. Jake ducked behind a crate, firing bursts to keep the enemy back, while Sierra moved like a storm, her movements too fast to follow. Every time they thought they cornered her, she was gone, striking from another angle. A sudden blast shook the wreck, sending a rain of dust from the ceiling. The hunters had brought heavier weapons, trying to bring the whole structure down. Jake's eyes narrowed. Not today. He sprinted to the largest trap he'd prepared, a pair of overloaded power cells connected to a magnetic pulse generator. He waited until the hunter stepped into the center of the room, then hit the trigger. A deep hum filled the air. The power cells burst with a blinding flash. The magnetic pulse ripped through the wreck. Every hunter's weapon sparked and died, their armor systems shutting down. Sierra didn't waste the moment. She moved in with precision, striking one after another until the floor was littered with defeated enemies. The last hunter tried to retreat, but Jake caught him, slamming him into a wall and growling, "Tell your warlord humans don't give up." Then he tossed the stunned alien aside, letting him run. The wreck fell silent again. Only the sound of Jake's heavy breathing and Sierra's slow, steady steps filled the air. She came to stand in front of him, her golden eyes fixed on his. "You are hurt," she said softly. Touching the blood on his cheek, Jake shrugged. "Just a scratch." Her hand lingered. "You could have left me 100 times, but you didn't." Jake met her gaze. "Guess I'm stuck with you now." She smiled faintly, a real smile this time. "No human," she whispered. "I am stuck with you. They left the grave of titans together, the heart of Aresh safe, the hunters broken behind them. The rising sun lit the iron wastes in gold and red. As they drove toward the horizon, Sierra reached out, taking his hand. Forever. She said simply. Jake didn't pull away. Forever, he echoed. And for the first time since she stepped on his toolbox, it didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like the start of something neither of them could walk away from.